Hi, it's Jeff Schofield from UK Plant Operators magazine, and today we're at Wolffkran in Sheffield. And for those of you who travel down the M1, you'll have seen on the left hand side, right hand side, any number of cranes that have been here over the years. So we've come here today to meet with Tom Allen, and Tom was the winner of the UK Plant Operators Tower Crane Operator of the Year back in last September over at the CITB National Construction College. Now, Wolffkran and the CITB have got a long-standing relationship that goes back to 2004, and hundreds of crane operators have been trained by the CITB that are now at work either for Wolffkran or for others in the industry. And of course, Wolffkran's history. Wolffkran had been involved in cranes for over 170 years. It started back in 1854, a German business, German engineering, to the brand and monolith that they are today. So we're going to go over and meet Tom. We're going to have a quick chat with him, and we're even going to go up into the cab and see the world from Tom's perspective. Let's go and meet him. Hey Tom, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Jeff.
It's been nearly a year, hasn't it? I mean, finals day of this year's competition is just next month, so just under a year ago. And we'll talk more about the campaign in a few minutes, but tell us a little about where you're working and what you're doing at the moment.
So currently I'm based in Wolffkran Yard here in Sheffield. We mainly just work with sort of tower cranes, unloading and offloading them. So they would come in for a dismantle and then we'd unload them, and then they'd be out for erection as well. So it's a case of just preparing. We have fitters, electricians, tower crane operators. We all work as sort of one big team, prepare the crane, and then it goes out and gets erected. The lifting we do here is a lot more complex. We're working with big components, heavy lifts, so it requires a lot more attention to detail and obviously a lot more safety as well. But here at Wolffkran, we always have a good supportive team around us, and people you can learn from and people you can watch, and many mentors in the yard and out on site as well. So you're always learning, you're always improving here.
And were you doing this job prior to joining the campaign last year? Or were you out on site then?
No, I was in the yard prior to the campaign last year.
Right. Okay, so we've mentioned the competition a couple of times. Now you are, of course, the reigning champion, the Tower Crane Operator of 2023. So tell us a little bit about what it was like during last year's campaign and why you entered.
So I entered the competition because it's a way of kind of showcasing, your skills and how competent you are in the industry. You also get to meet a lot of kind of like-minded individuals at the event. So, whether or not that's if you're a business owner and you want to speak to other business owners there, or if you may be just an employee looking for work opportunities, there's something there for everyone, and we can all kind of get a gist of how good we are against sort of the best in the industry.
It's interesting you say that, isn't it? Because I suppose you are, putting yourself up against other crane operators. What was the standard like? What were your fellow competitors?
The standard was really, really good. Every operator did a really good job up there. Obviously the nerves can get the better of you because you have people watching, and it's a big event. So you may be on site, you may be up a crane and feel comfortable in what you do every single day. You get up there, you've got 2 minutes to familiarise yourself with the crane, and then it's kind of off you go. And if you do let them nerves get the better of you, then you may make mistakes and it could just end in a disaster. So it's one thing that can really test you.
And just tell us a little bit, for those that weren't there and maybe thinking about coming along this year or indeed entering, what were you asked to do? What did the challenge involve?
So the challenge entailed, we first started with kind of a W, which kind of represented Wolffkran, the company I work for. And you had to sort of slowly and steady go through this W without knocking anything over. If you did knock something over, you get points deducted or time deducted. And then it's just a case of moving the load from each point and landing it accurately as you can, and also as quick as you can, because you're up against the clock as well. So you sort of go around the route, and then finally you land it down and the clock stops.
And how were you judged? Who was judging it, and how was that?
So the judges was a fellow working at CITB and another colleague of mine working here, Jonathan Parker. They kind of judged you based on how steady you was, how much you could control the load, and just making sure that there was no swings and whatnot, and that's all taken into consideration for the final sort of judging.
Yeah. and I do know the answer to this, but you tell everybody. So you're going to come back, I understand, for this year's campaign. What would you say to anybody that's thinking about? There's still time to enter the Crane Operator of the Year competition. What would you say to anybody that's thinking about entering?
So I think for many, they always believe that, oh, it may be too far for me to travel, I may not even win anyway, but it's a full day out for sort of anyone, families, friends, and I think you more have to have a mindset of you're there to meet people, you're there to sort of build relationships with different people, and it's kind of just a fun day out. You know, obviously you have to be in it to win it, but even if you don't win it, it's still a great day out.
I mean, there was a good cash prize on offer, as there is this year. It's $2,500, I think it was,
yeah.
which was nice. I don't want to know what you spent it on, but I believe when you got back here after winning, there was you spent a little bit of it here. Tell me about that.
So obviously, I wouldn't even be in the competition without Wolffkran. So I thought the only right thing to do is kind of share the winnings. Let's say not all the winnings, but a little bit of the winnings with the team, and just as a sort of a thanks for the development I get here and the opportunities I get here, because Wolffkran always kind of...
So what did you get then? What was the...
So the grand prize was £2,000.
Yeah. And what did you buy when you came back here?
So when I came back here, I basically asked everyone what we'd like, and we all just said we'll all have fish and chips. So
it was a mass order for everybody.
A mass order
of fish and chips, and you picked up the tab.
Yeah, the chip shop was happy. Put it that way.
I bet they were. So a great gesture though. That's for sure. Justin, it's been good to catch up with Tom here in Sheffield. Now, what we're going to do, Tom, now is go up in the cab. We're going to look at it's a Luffing 500B crane. It's the one that's behind us. We're going to go up into the cab and we're going to have a conversation about what happens on your sort of day-to-day activity. Now, in the truest Hollywood sort of spirit, the role of Jeff Schofield for this particular scene will in fact be replaced by Joe Schofield. So let's take Joe and Tom up into the cab and let's have an in-cab conversation.
Yeah. Wow, that was some journey to the top of the crane. Can you tell me how many steps there was to take us to the top?
So this crane is around 40 metres high, but some cranes can go a lot higher. It all depends on obviously the size of the project, how high the building needs to be, and that will sort of dictate the height of the crane.
So how long have you been a crane operator for, Tom?
So around 7 years, going on 8 years now. I did my apprenticeship at the National Construction College in Bircham Newton. I've mainly always stayed with Wolffkran. They've been good to me. They offer many opportunities, and they've always been a company what innovates every single year, develops its employees, and it's a place where you can always learn and keep improving.
Could you tell me about the various controls in the cab?
So in regards to your controls, you have your left lever here, and that is to slow the crane. You can also back notch the crane to slow the crane down, and then on your right hand side you have your hoist, so you can hoist up and down. And then as well as the hoist, depending on what sort of crane we're working with, so if it's a luffing crane, you can luff up and down with this left hand lever. And then if it's a saddle jib crane, then it's called a trolley, and you'd be trolleying in and out.
So what's the lifting capacity of this crane?
So this crane in particular can lift up to around 30 tonne, around 21 metres. And then it can also lift around 9.5 tonne all the way at 50 metres. The cranes we use in the yard are a lot more heavy lifting cranes, hence the reason of that sort of load it can lift. If you're out on site, some lift a lot less, some lift a lot more.
What safety features are built in to stop you from lifting something heavier than you should?
So we have an amber light which shows that you're approaching the capacity of what the crane can lift, and then we have a red overload light, which basically means that the crane cannot go any further and needs to be taken back into a safe state.
What technology is in the cab to make it safe and improve performance?
So what we have in most cabs is called a RCI, so that stands for Rated Capacity Indicator. So that basically tells us how much we can lift, what radius we're currently at, and what we can lift at that radius. In some cranes now we also have block cams which enable us to see what the guys are doing on the ground. It makes it safer for them and it also makes it safer for us.
What challenges does the wind provide and when does it stop you from working?
So in the crane industry we do have wind off speeds which enable us to know when is safe and not safe to operate the crane. When the winds do get too high, the crane will normally set off an alarm which indicates to the operator it is becoming unsafe to operate the crane.
Is there a maximum number of hours in a day or week of where you can operate the crane?
So most construction sites operate based on 10 hours. So maybe some sites when they need more work doing will work to 12 and onwards, but as you can imagine, the longer hours you do, your attention span becomes shorter and shorter and it may become unsafe.
So what's the typical day of a crane operator?
The typical day of a crane operator, we'd normally start between 6 a.m. to around 7:30 a.m. depending on what site you're on. We work with multiple different contractors on the site because most people need the crane, so whether or not that's steel fixers, scaffolders, bricklayers. We'd normally always work with a banksman. They'll work with the contractors on the ground and explain to us what lifts need doing.
So what's the best thing about being a crane operator?
So the best thing about being a crane operator is you get to work with various different contractors, different workers and meet new people constantly. Most operators work all over the country on different projects, different people, and any one day is always different and exciting.
So what's the first thing people say when they know what you do for a living?
So the first thing most people always say is, how do you get up there? And the follow-on question from that normally is, where do you go to the toilet?
So it's been good to chat to you, Tom. Let's get back down now, back on solid ground.
Perfect, let's go.
It's going to be weird doing it backwards.